Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. For those that are new, welcome. Since it is October, I decided to pull together my top 10 vampire movies. Since I'm a huge vampire fan, of course, this wasn't exactly easy for me to narrow down because there's just so many. So I did the best I can. If you don't see your favorite, let me know in the comments and I'll see if I've actually seen it. If not, I'll give it a try and I'll get back to you on that. Some movies that are cult classics, that are fan favorites, are actually not on here. Some of them, because they're not favorites of mine, and I'll get into those in another video if you're interested to know what movies didn't make the list and why. So, to start this off, number 10 is Only Lovers Left Alive. I don't know if any of you have actually seen this movie. I recently watched it and at first I thought I was going to hate it because it's kind of a slow burn. It takes a bit for it to get going. However, once it did, it surprised me in a lot of ways. So the film's about two vampires who have been in love for centuries. They're named Adam and Eve, which I thought was kind of cliche, but still not bad. Well, Eve's sister appears and causes issues for the lovers, which seem to have occurred in the past with how Adam reacts to her. The blood drinking that was depicted seemed like a drug, which wasn't the same as other vampire movies. It seemed to have had this like hallucinogenic property to it, the way they were acting once they fed, which I thought was an interesting concept. The issue that I had is the plot is very thin, which is why it's number 10 on my list instead of higher up. However, there is something about this movie that is quite beautiful to me, and I don't know what it is exactly, which is why it made the list. Number 9 is Bones, which again, I don't know if any of you have actually seen this movie. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw this, and I'm even more surprised that it has such bad reviews. It's about a man named Jimmy Bones, who is played by Snoop Dogg, which right off the bat I was a little hesitant just because I know Snoop Dogg from his music. I don't really know him for his acting abilities. I've never really seen him in a movie before. When a crooked cop kills Jimmy, his associates seek justice and revenge. And Jimmy Bones becomes a vampire, but not in the traditional sense, which is why I love this movie. It was totally different from other films that I've seen, and I liked the abilities that the vampire had in this film. It, again, was much more unique than other vampire films, which is why it's number 9. I like vampire movies that are more unique to the mythos than the traditional vampire turns into a bat, or them creating vampires through feeding and the transfer of blood between the two. Or even the beauty of a vampire, if they make them more grotesque, it's something more unique for me. So that's what this movie brought for me, so I would suggest it. I mean, Snoop Dogg actually did a really good job portraying a vampire, and I loved it. Number 8 is Rise, Blood Hunter, which is another film that has really bad reviews, but I really liked it because, again, it brought something different to the franchise. Well, not franchise, but the vampire myth and legend. I thought it was interesting how the vampires feed. They It was more like how the vampires in Hotel, American Horror Story Hotel, fed, which wasn't using their teeth. It was more using other means to get the blood flowing through either a necklace with a blade on it or nails like in Hotel. So I really liked it. It was much more unique. I also liked the story behind Sadie, which is the main character, who's played by Lucy Liu, which is partially why I watched this movie, because I like Lucy Liu in a lot of the action movies. I think she's an incredible actor for the stunts she does and stuff. But overall, I think it's a great movie. The reason why it has bad reviews is because a lot of people compare it to Blade. But for me, it was more like Blood Rain than Blade. It does have a similar story. However, if you overlook it, it's really not a bad film. The acting's not horrible, and I kind of wish they made another one where Sadie's hunting vampires that go out of their way to harm or kill humans. Kind of like the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movies, although I haven't seen them. From what the previews have showed me, the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo does hunt men specifically that harm women and children. So if they made it more like a vampire hunting bad people that are harming humans, it might be more interesting. Number 7 is Daywatch, which, again, I don't know if any of you have actually watched this. It's not really a vampire movie, though, but it's here because I like the vampires that are in it and how they depict them. It is a foreign film, which is Russian, specifically. It's a fantasy, action, and horror movie, in my opinion. It's a film about light versus dark and a war between the two. And since war is very complicated, it's not something that's easy for me to describe to all of you. So I just would suggest you just to watch them and give them a try. I don't know if there's more than 2. I just know of 2, Daywatch and Nightwatch. Nightwatch is actually the first one. Daywatch is the second one. Number 6 is, of course, Nightwatch. That's why I'm just rushing into 6. Nightwatch, from what I do remember, because I haven't seen these films in a very long time, unfortunately, but they are still some of my favorites. In Nightwatch, you have a human that gets pulled into the war between light and dark. And I believe you see a demon of some sort, and it looks fantastic. I honestly love the special effects in these movies. The action scenes are incredible, and the makeup is phenomenal. Granted, I'm a huge fan of foreign films, so this isn't really surprising that I enjoyed this movie so much. I don't want to say too much about Nightwatch because I feel like I'm going to give too much away. So just please watch it if you can find it. I haven't been able to find it on any streaming service, so good luck in finding these movies. I did find them on Blu-ray, and I am hoping to purchase them in the near future because I finally found them. It's been so long. Number 5 is Fright Night. Again, not really surprising. The makeup in this movie was awesome. I loved it. It made the vampires grotesque and freakish looking. I know you get the good-looking persona first, but when that fades and you see this horrible monster, perfect. Absolutely perfect. I haven't seen the remake. I don't think it can beat the original or even come close. If you think it's worth a watch, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to watch it. The idea behind Fright Night was also really cool, where you have a vampire that moves in next door, and the human kid is the only one who suspects anything is amiss, and nobody will believe this kid. Which kind of reminded me of The Lost Boys a little bit, just because in The Lost Boys, which is number 4, so I'm just gonna go right into it. You have 2 teenage boys that move to a small little quiet town, and there's vampires running amok. And the only ones that know this are these 2 comic book nerds, which I love. Those guys are incredible. Who knows something's wrong, warn the other teenager, but he thinks they're crazy. Until he starts noticing weird things with his brother. The reason why Lost Boys is number 4, and why it's better, in my opinion, than Fright Night, is the soundtrack and the cast. I adore the soundtrack of The Lost Boys. It's phenomenal. And the cast, I mean, come on, who can beat David, Michael, and Star? Those 3 characters were phenomenal. Besides the 2 guys in the comic book store, I forget their names, forgive me. The makeup was also great. It was a little similar to Fright Night, but still really cool to see the grotesque monster come out. I haven't seen the movies after these, like this one. I know they made a few others, but they seem too modern for me. So they don't seem to fit with the storyline or the time period of The Lost Boys. Let me know if you have seen them and if they are decent enough to give a try. Blade is number 3. Although sometimes I swear it should be number 2, so I think it's tied with my number 2 choice, and I will get into that one. The blood rave in the beginning of Blade is my favorite scene in the entire movie, apart from where you are first introduced to Deacon Frost. I adore Deacon Frost. I think Stephen Dorff, he did a great job portraying that character. You have this like arrogant, bratty, young vampire who thinks he knows it all, doesn't want to stick with traditions, and wants to do his own thing. I really liked him. And I was honestly hoping that he wouldn't die just so he could like come back in another movie, because I think he was the best villain in the entire franchise. Or trilogy, I should say, because it hasn't been that many. There's only been 3. I wish they actually made more, but it's fine. What do you think about the remake that is coming out at some point? I keep hearing that there is one in the works. Do you think they can find anyone who can replace Wesley Snipes or Christopher Christopherson as Whistler? Because for me, I think the cast was just too perfect. And Blade being a Marvel film and Disney owning Marvel does have me a little worried, because I don't know how you can make a vampire film like Blade PG-13. So I am a little worried. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of that. Which brings me to my number 2 choice, which is Queen of the Damned. Now, the reason why it's so hard is the soundtrack is so amazing. And I love the actors in this too, so it's a really hard movie for me. I have a love-hate relationship with Queen of the Damned because I'm a huge Anne Rice fan. I've read all of her Vampire Chronicle books. And since I read Queen of the Damned, this movie is nothing like the book. They changed so many important factors that it ruins the movie for me. I tend to have to skip parts that I know are complete BS. Like how Lestat was, like who made Lestat, how Lestat was made, how he got the violin, who Marius is, how Marius knows Lestat, how they met. They even messed up on Jessie and how she became a vampire. They didn't explain the other vampire characters that are important to this story. They left out Maharat's sister. And then they brought in these vampires and they never told you who they were, like Pandora and other people. You never even got a name with these vampires. They're just nobodies. They're just stand-ins, and it's really disheartening what they did. What saved it for me is the soundtrack and, like I said, the cast. I mean, Stuart Townsend forever will be my Lestat. I don't care that he didn't have blonde hair. I don't care. He did such an incredible job portraying the Brat Prince that he will always be Lestat. Aaliyah was phenomenal as Akasha. I don't think anybody can do a better job than what Aaliyah did. I mean, she didn't even have to talk, and you felt that ominous power from her. Like, you knew she could do anything. Kill anyone with an instant. And that's what Akasha was. She was deadly, but beautiful. And Aaliyah did a very good job pulling that off. Plus, the chemistry between Aaliyah and Stuart Townsend was perfect. I mean, that chemistry was in the book between the two. And I thought they did a very good job. I thought the actress that played Jessie did well as well. But again, I wish they kept with the original story behind her and Maharat. That's my only issues with that movie. That's why I said it's a hard one. I heard that they're making the Vampire Chronicles into a TV show or a series, something like that. I don't know how it's going to be. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm hoping that they'll stick more to the books and not throw in their own ideas just to fill plots that are just too complex. I really hope that they delve into it so you can actually see what made Lestat the way he was, who Louis was, because they really did a horrible job portraying him in Interview with the Vampire, in my opinion. I also thought they did a bad job with Lestat too, but that's just my opinion. And I'm wasting too much time talking about Queen of the Damned and Interview with the Vampire. So we're moving on. Number 1 is 30 Days of Night. It is my favorite vampire movie. They finally brought back the fear of vampires. This movie terrified me when I first watched it, I'll admit it. Like, when the vampires are pulling people underneath the houses, and it's just a bloodbath. I thought it was phenomenal. The noises the vampires made was so disturbing. It sent shivers down my spine. The facial expressions as well was unnerving sometimes. It was a great movie. And one that fits very well with the vampire lore, since they can only come out at night. And what better setting than Alaska, where night falls for a month straight. It's just a great movie with a tragic ending. The second one was terrible in my opinion. I hated it. It was too over the top and not like the survival aspect we saw originally in the first 30 Days of Night movie. I haven't read the graphic novels. If you have, let me know if they're worth looking into. What do you think about my list? Do you agree, disagree? And if you do, that's fine. Just let me know. I'm curious. What are your favorite vampire films? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Take care, everyone. Until next time.